economic growth, corruption, human trafficking, drugs, and constitutional reform are among them. Strengthening the role of Parliament and its contribution, both in holding the executive to account and by so doing ensuring good governance for the country, is another. And that was the topic of many of my discussions in Naypyidaw 2 days ago. Yet if I could identify only 3 challenges, they would be these. The search for genuine peace in the ethnic states which have been torn apart, ripped asunder by civil war for half a century or more. Equitable economic development which provides opportunities for those who hitherto have been denied them. And the fight to ensure that every single person in this country, of every race and religion, is treated with equal dignity. For in any country or society where there is civil war, racial injustice, and religious intolerance, democracy, frankly, cannot prosper. They tear at the very fabric of society and threaten the values upon which democracy depends. Significant progress has been made towards peace in the ethnic states, and I pay tribute to all involved in those efforts. I welcome the leadership Daw Suu has shown in holding the Panglong Peace Conference. I welcome the ceasefires that have already been agreed in some parts of the country over the past 5 years. But we all know that there is still some way to go. The ceasefire is welcome in that it pauses the conflict. The two sides, my friends, literally cease firing. And it perhaps enables the victims of the conflict to begin slowly to rebuild their lives. But it is not the same as a lasting peace. A lasting, genuine peace requires a political dialogue aimed at finding a mutually acceptable political solution to end the conflict, and then it requires a clear end to war. And I am very aware that in some parts of the country, particularly in Kachin and northern Shan states, war still rages. People are still being displaced. Women are still being raped. And human rights violations are still taking place with impunity. From my visits to the borders, my meetings with Karen, Karenni, Chin, Mon and Shan peoples on my travels, and with Kachin, Rakhine and other ethnic nationalities whom I've met in London, it's clear to me that a negotiated settlement which gives the ethnic nationalities some degree of autonomy in a federal system offers a way to peace that no other path provides. In the United Kingdom, we have some experience of this. We had, of course, the tragic decades of conflict in Northern Ireland. And albeit with no violence involved, we faced growing calls for a change in the arrangements for Scotland and Wales to empower them to run more of their own affairs. We addressed both of these challenges through a peace process in Northern Ireland and a new political settlement that devolved power to Scotland and Wales. It is not my place to tell you what arrangements you should make here, or to suggest for one moment that solutions in one country can be copied exactly in yours. But the principles involved of seeking through political dialogue a political solution and of devolving power to a local level where possible surely offer some way forward. Another issue related to the ethnic conflict is, of course, the humanitarian situation for those displaced, particularly in Kachin, Northern Shan and Rakhine states, and the imperative of access for humanitarian aid. I understand that restrictions in place in some areas mean that aid is not always reaching those who need it, and that is a desperate situation. I call for those restrictions to be lifted. Colleagues, I will leave a detailed discussion of economic development to those far more expert than I. Any successful government must create the conditions in which the economy can grow, jobs can be created, and revenue can be raised that allows the expansion of health and education services. I am naturally therefore pleased that a large part of the British government's $130 million aid budget is designed to support your government in that goal. On the third challenge, I can, I think, do no better than to quote Sibagu Sayadaw, who said a few years ago, "The people of Myanmar, regardless of their ethnic origin, creed, colour and religion, are strongly encouraged to strive for peaceful coexistence and harmony." And I remind you of the Catholic Archbishop of Yangon, Cardinal Bo, who has said, if Myanmar is to be truly free, peaceful and prosperous, the rights of all ethnicities and religious faiths must be protected. For a democracy to thrive, it must be underpinned by the rule of law and the protection of human rights. And among the range of human rights set out in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, those enshrined in Article 18 are among the most foundational. In your country, as in mine, there is a majority religion which is recognized and respected. But the rights of minorities must equally be protected. In my country, earlier this year, we elected a new mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, who is a Muslim. We have members of both houses of Parliament who are from a variety of religious backgrounds: Hindu, Muslim, Jewish, Buddhist, Sikh, Catholic and Protestant, and many who are of no religious belief. We have in the cabinet as our communities secretary Sajid Javid, the son of an immigrant from Pakistan who came to Britain with £1 in his pocket and became a bus driver. Colleagues, democracy must be inclusive and protective of the rights of all and offer opportunity for all if it is to survive and enjoy respect. Lord Aung San Suu Kyi said in an interview last November, just a day after the election, that, and I quote, "hatred has no place," unquote, in this country. And she is right. Every society, every country where different religious traditions are present faces the challenge of how to live with such diversity. And in every society, including my own, there are prejudices and there is extremism and intolerance. So these are not challenges for your country alone. They are challenges with which we all grapple. But building a society where people of different beliefs live peacefully and in harmony is essential. There are three images which for me symbolize the beauty of diversity in your country and why I hope you will cherish and protect that diversity. The first is the fact that at the very heart of this city sits Sulay Pagoda. And opposite Sulay Pagoda, across the square near City Hall, sits the Emmanuel Baptist Church. And on the other side of the pagoda is a mosque. Side by side, pagoda, church and mosque, symbolic of the multi-religious society which you are, symbolic of the interfaith harmony which has existed for centuries, a harmony that has at times been threatened, but a harmony which it is essential to protect. The second, my friends, is the story of the Musmaya Yeshua Synagogue in 26th Street. I happen to be of Jewish heritage myself, and so when I learned that the synagogue, which I believe is the only one in the country, is looked after, cleaned and protected by a Muslim, I thought, what a powerful message that sends to the world, to respect, honor and care for the places of worship, not only of our own religion, but those of others too. And thirdly, when Cardinal Beau celebrated his 25 years as a bishop last December, in his birthplace of Monlar, 4 hours from Mandalay, he invited one evening a Buddhist monk, a Muslim leader, a Hindu, and a Protestant pastor to join him. And together they spoke of a vision for interfaith harmony and lit a candle for peace. As he told us when he visited Westminster in May of this year, those sort of gestures, those symbolic acts, send a message to grassroots communities, and as long as they are followed up with grassroots action and community life together, they make a difference. And finally, the situation in Rakhine State. I know that this is a very difficult topic for many. I know that there are different versions of history, different interpretations of the causes of the conflict, different perspectives on the claims and counterclaims of the different people groups on the ground. I know the controversy which the issue of names in Rakhine has caused. But my country recognizes the right that any group of people have to be called by the name they choose. That is why we call the Muslim community there Rohingya. But doing so does not mean that we accept one version of history or ignore the complexity of the situation. Nevertheless, the lack of full citizenship lies at the root of most of the discrimination faced by the Rohingya. Repeal or amendment of the 1982 citizenship law, I suggest, is urgently required. The situation in the state as a whole is not only horrendous for all of the inhabitants, but damaging to the international standing of your great country. I therefore welcome the establishment of the Advisory Commission chaired by former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, and also the separate Central Committee for Implementation of Peace and Development in Rakhine State, chaired by Dr. Aung San Suu Kyi, which will work for peace and development in that part of your country. And certainly the needs of the Rakhine have also suffered under decades of dictatorship and poverty, must be addressed as part of the search for a just solution for all. As Martin Luther King once said, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. I have highlighted a number of the challenges that your country faces, but I want to devote the bulk of my remaining remarks to the remarkable progress in your country's parliament. As someone who has spent almost all of my adult life in Parliament, for the last 7 years as Speaker, I believe that Parliament holds the key to a nation's success. This is because it is in a properly working Parliament that the laws of the country are scrutinised, that ministers are held to account, that the policies of government are held up to the light of public debate. A sensible government welcomes this role of Parliament, and I know that your government does. This is because the Parliament, through the work of its elected members, is one of the most important means by which a government maintains its link to the electorate. The members know their constituents and ensure that the government is continuously made aware of their views. But Parliament also offers, as I saw on my trip to Naypyidaw, a unique range of expertise. There are members who come from the world of business, medicine, the arts, the sciences, and civil society organisations. In short, almost all walks of life. And they are an enormous resource to help to ensure that the right policies and the right laws are adopted. In 2015, we celebrated the 800th anniversary of the Magna Carta, universally recognised as a landmark in the rule of law. In that year, we also celebrated in the United Kingdom the 750th anniversary of Simon de Montfort's Parliament, the first in any way recognisably representative House of Commons. Let me confide to you, ladies and gentlemen, that after 750 years, we have not yet got it right. It was only last year that I was able to achieve an ambition. I was able to see to fruition our new state-of-the-art, digital, interactive education centre, which will allow more than a doubling of the number of young people who can come to Parliament to learn of the arduous journey to the rights of representation which we enjoy today. We cannot be accused in the United Kingdom of hurrying matters. My friends, we remain, as I am very ready to admit, a work in progress. To this end, I, as Speaker, and more importantly, our House of Commons, are greatly assisted by our Procedure Committee. Although not all of its brainwaves are implemented, its sensible proposals are normally adopted by the whole House, enabling us to make useful improvements to our working practices. I commend the idea to others. Since 2013, we have been working to enhance the capacity of the Chlutor in response to the very direct request made of us in the British Parliament by Daw Aung San Suu Kyi in the course of her historic, inspiring and unforgettable speech in Westminster Hall on the 21st of June 2012, to which I referred earlier. Thanks to funding from UK Aid, we have had first one member of staff and now 2 full-time House of Commons staff embedded in the Chlutor, initially working on developing an impartial and authoritative parliamentary research service to MPs. Oliver Bennett was the person who led that work, and then it has been continued by Dr. David Hurst. And more recently, a parallel strand of work on strengthening the support offered to committees by their staff has been launched. That strand is led by House of Commons staffer Zoe Oliver-Watts, whom I saw, of course, earlier this week when I began my visit here. Next year, a very senior House of Commons official, a very senior clerk who is a procedural expert in the workings of Parliament, Liam Lawrence-Smith, who is here with us today and has been on this trip with me, will be stationed in the Chlutor for 3 months. I'm proud to tell you he came first to your country with me in 2013. Like me, he was uplifted and inspired, not just in his head but in his heart, by his visit. And it has really been a life-transforming experience for him. He loves the place so much that he keeps coming back, and he is now learning the language. I hope you will recognise that he is deeply committed to the greater fortunes of your country and all of its people. My friends, these secondments have been supplemented by seminars and workshops, including the UNDP Chlutor Induction Week in February this year, where my present and former House of Commons colleagues Chloe Smith, Angela Smith, no relation, Joan Ryan and Meg Munn joined a panel of international experts. We're now entering a new phase of our work with the Chlutor, still with UK aid support, where we will be working in partnership with the Westminster Foundation for Democracy and the British Council. We offer some support, but it is the people of this country who have fought for the transformative changes that have taken place thus far, with democratic elections changing the face of Parliament in your country. It is those courageous people and the generations who will come in their wake who will continue to build your Parliament as an institution, to advise the government on how to address the challenges that it now faces. Parliament needs to continue to attract the best and the brightest, many of whom are in this audience, either as MPs already or as students or members of civil society. So as I said to a group of young people in Shan State yesterday, perhaps I can say to you, if you are already involved in politics, which fundamentally is a noble calling, I commend you. If you are not, and it is important to you that this country continues on the path to democracy, peace, and prosperity, why not choose to be a part of it, to be active and articulate agents of progressive change? The future of your country is surely too important for you to leave it to other people. I offer these reflections today, as I say, not as someone who has all the answers, and certainly not as someone trying to lecture you on what to do. Rather, I offer these reflections today as a friend who has watched your journey with interest for more than a decade, a friend who has tried, in my own small way, to help in the spheres of influence available to me, and a friend who now celebrates this new beginning which you, the people of this country, against formidable odds, together have achieved. Colleagues, I will continue to watch your country and to watch your journey as a country with keen interest. I will continue to make myself available if there's anything that I can credibly do to help you as you seek to strengthen